This episode was filmed at my friendly local game store. Please support your friendly local game stores. Hello YouTube and welcome back to the Drunken Kobold. Today we are looking at the Wild Beyond the Witchlight for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. This is the latest adventure to come out of the Dungeons & Dragons lineup and is designed to take players levels 1 through 8, making it one of the shortest adventures to not have a follow-up book. First, let's look at the covers for this adventure. On our standard cover, you have Mr. Witch and Mr. Light, the proprietors of the Witchlight Carnival. I think that this is a really cool artwork that kind of displays the mischief of the Feywild in its artwork. Next, we have the Hydro 74 alternative art that is available at your friendly local game store. This is a displacer beast on the cover and is by far one of my favorite Hydro artworks to date, and I love having this on my bookshelf. I would not have it any other way. Next, we're going to look at the player options in this book. There are 2 new backgrounds available in this book, the Fey Lost and the Witchlight Hand. The Fey Lost is you are a character who is native to a plane that is not the Feywild. You have been brought into the Feywild by a outside third-party means. Now, there are some options presented in this book as to how that happened, but if you are a lore-savvy player, you can come up with your own options too. Just talk to your dungeon master, but I'm pretty sure that as long as it doesn't break the story, the dungeon master is going to be fine with it. I love the Fey Lost background, and I hope it is presented in a player options book in the future. Maybe we'll get to see it in our effectively 5.5 edition that releases in 2024, but who knows. Next, we are going to look at the Witchlight Hand. The Witchlight Hand is by far my least favorite background in Dungeons & Dragons 5e, and this is why. It is specifically tied to this book. You are a person who, as a child, you snuck into the Witchlight Carnival and you have been working there as a carny, as a stagehand, as a prop getter. There is a few things that you could be doing, and there are some options presented in this book for that, but it is specifically tied to this book. And I can't imagine many players, if it was presented outside of this book in a player options source book, would be picking this background. It doesn't really seem to have much use outside of Wild Beyond the Witchlight, but I'm pretty sure a savvy character builder could definitely do it. Next, we have 2 new races, Herringon and Fairy. Herringon is essentially bunny folk. They are rabbit-like humanoid creatures that have a variety of rabbit-based pun abilities, my favorite being the hair trigger, which allows you to add your proficiency bonus to your initiative rolls. Next, we have Fairy. Fairy are interesting to me, as Wizards of the Coast for the longest time has had an aversion to characters with a level 1 flight speed. They banned the Aarakocra from Volo's Guide to Monsters in Adventures League, and I kind of see that being the same fate for Fairy. However, I'd like to be proven wrong on this, as I know Adventures League has kind of laxed up their rules on character creation, especially with the scrapping of Player's Handbook +1. Herringon come in size small and medium, and Fairy come in size small. Next, let's take a look at the adventure without spoilers. There are 2 adventure hooks presented in this book for dungeon masters to use. However, you can come up with your own if you wish. The first one is that your players all visited the Witchlight Carnival as children. They snuck in, they didn't pay, and as a result, they lost something, a piece of them, that as a result, they have all come back to the Witchlight Carnival to get what they lost. I have to say that this is something that I don't quite enjoy as either a dungeon master or a player, as although this invests the characters in the story, it makes them part of the story from the get-go. It is a very narrow focus, and I, as a dungeon master, don't like to put my characters in a position where they are where they don't have much of a choice. They are railroaded into their pre-story background. And the other is where you are a more traditional adventuring party. You have met a warlock who cannot contact their patron, so it sends you on a mystery adventure in which you have to solve the mystery of the warlock's patron. However, the mystery doesn't hold up for long, and it unravels very quickly into the book. And then the book spends a lot of time trying to cover its tracks, trying to make you think that the adventure is a red herring when it really isn't. So I have to say that that is some pretty sloppy writing on Wizards of the Coast's part. Although I do have to say that I do like that the book is presented in a non-linear fashion. You have the ability to make choices, you have the ability to make options, and while you will visit all of those options eventually, I like that players have the choice in which order they do it. So that way, say before you played this book in a different adventure, your dungeon master in a new game can present it in a different order that makes it feel unique each time. However, eventually you will become familiar with all the options, and it will eventually feel like you are being railroaded from place to place in that you don't have a choice in where those adventures go. I have to say that some of the encounters in here are really interesting. This book did a lot better than Icewind Dale in terms of balancing its combat encounters, but I also like that it has a fresh approach to encounters in Dungeons & Dragons, as you can do this book entirely as a pacifist run where you don't have combat, where you use role play and diplomacy to get through the book. And I feel that there are a lot of players who are going to enjoy that new take on adventures while still having the standard dungeon crawl, kill 'em all feel that you get with most of your D&D adventures. You also don't have to do it entirely pacifist or entirely combat. You can mix and match it. There's information in this book so that dungeon masters have the option of determining the outcome based on your player's actions in a more organic way. It will make sense. Lastly, I want to say that this book is about as much as a setting book to the Feywild as Icewind Dale is to the Far North, or Curse of Strahd is to the Shadowfell. There actually isn't a lot to do with the Feywild in these books in terms of lore and settings and whatnot, so I feel like a follow-up book similar to Van Richten's Guide to Everything would be very appropriate to this book and expand on the bestiary provided here. This is a book that you are either going to try really hard to love it and you are going to hate it, or you are going to try to hate it with every fiber of your being, and you are going to fail. You're going to love this adventure. There is no middle ground here, and I have to say that that is going to leave people's opinions of this book very polarizing. Overall, I love this book. I tried to hate it. I tried to be like, no, you are an adventure that I want to steer clear from. My players, on the other hand, they wanted to love it. They wanted to try and play it. However, they could not find themselves invested in it, and we have had to shelve the Wild Beyond the Witchlight for now, until at least there's a little bit more content to be able to flesh this out, that I don't have to sit and take the time to convert. All in all, content-wise, I love the content of this book. There is a DLC available on the Dungeon Masters Guild that is specifically referenced in this book, and that is the first time Wizards of the Coast has tried that, so there will be a separate video to review that DLC, but I have to say that that is a very, very risky approach by Wizards of the Coast. As such, because this is such a polarizing book with such interesting content, I have to give this book a 7 out of 10. I feel that there are a lot of things that it could have done better, but it does what it does well. So have you had a chance to experience The Wild Beyond the Witchlight? Are you with me on this one in that you love it, or are you with my players on this one in that you just want to shelve this book and never see it again? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you feel I deserved it, please leave a like and consider subscribing. In the meantime, cheers, and may your rolls be with you.